Ever feel like understanding money is a secret language? Some people are fluent, and, well, the rest of us are kind of just fumbling through.
Right, picking up a few phrases here and there. But hey, that's why you're here, right? To get fluent.
Exactly. We're going deep on money today. We've got articles breaking down the basics, a YouTube video, really fascinating. It gets into the psychology of money, like how our brains work with it, and another one.
This one tells the story of wealth going way back, like ancient times.
Oh, and we even pulled some wisdom from a classic book about, getting rich.
Think of this deep dive as like a crash course in everything money.
Yeah.
By the end of this, you'll be seriously well informed.
And we're not just talking about checking your balance, right?
No way! We're going way back to the very beginnings, how it all started. Then we'll look at how money works in the world today, the psychology behind it all, and even some steps you can take, practical stuff.
Our mission, to cut through all the noise and give you the essential knowledge you need to truly understand money, starting right now. Okay, so first things first, what is money? Like really, what makes something actually work as money?
Well, at its core, money, to be effective, needs a few key things. It has to be durable. Like, think about it. A gold coin lasts for centuries. A head of lettuce, on the other hand.
Not so much.
Yeah, not so much. It also needs to be divisible, right? So you can buy something small or something big.
Makes sense.
Then think about transportability. Imagine paying for groceries with, I don't know, a cow,
Yeah, that would be awkward.
to say the least. And finally, it has to be somewhat scarce, to hold its value, but not too scarce. Otherwise, you can't use it for everyday transactions.
Right, right. So before digital, before even paper money, what do people use?
For ages, it was all about direct exchange, bartering. You'd trade, say, some grain you grew for tools someone else made.
Straightforward.
But these early systems, well, they had limitations. Finding someone who wants exactly what you have and has what you want in the right amounts, it's not easy.
Definitely a challenge.
So over time, things like precious metals, they're more durable, more portable. They emerged as a better way to store and exchange value.
Okay, so how did we go from carrying around gold to the paper money in our wallets?
Now that's a story. It really evolved. Back in the Middle Ages, you started seeing things like letters of exchange, basically written promises to pay.
Interesting.
And banks, like the Banco di San Giorgio, they started issuing notes representing the value people had deposited with them, made trades safer, easier.
Ah, so these were early forms of paper money.
Exactly. And slowly, governments took over, getting the sole right to issue currency. That's what we now call fiat money.
Fiat money, right. That's the system we're all using today.
Exactly. Unlike gold or other commodities, fiat currency, its value comes from trust. Trust in the government, the authority issuing it.
Trust is key.
It is. And this system, it really solidified after 1971 when President Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard. Before that, for decades, many currencies were tied to gold reserves.
The gold standard, right. That put a limit on how much money could be printed.
Exactly.
So after paper money became the norm, what happened next?
The digital revolution, which really took off in the 1970s, this paved the way for electronic money, your debit cards, online transfers, all that.
The digital age of money.
Yeah, and then in 2009, we saw a real breakthrough, Bitcoin, the first decentralized cryptocurrency.
Ah, Bitcoin. It runs on blockchain technology, right? Doesn't need those traditional financial institutions.
Exactly. And, it emerged after the 2008 financial crisis. Part of it was a reaction to that, a distrust in the system.
Makes sense. It also brought up a bunch of new questions about regulation, right?
Absolutely, and we're still grappling with those today.
So let's look at the money we use every day. In our wallets, in our digital accounts. What are the main forms it takes?
We can break it down. First, there's what we call fiduciary money, your physical cash, banknotes, and coins.
The tangible stuff.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's less than 10% of the total global money supply.
Less than 10%.
Wow. It's universally accepted for small transactions, sure.
Yeah.
But the costs of producing it, securing it, it's all pushing us toward digital.
So the vast majority of our money is, what, just data?
Pretty much. That's what we call scriptural money, also known as bank money. It's the dominant form, over 90%, and it exists as balances in bank accounts.
Oh, so things like transfers, checks, card payments.
All of that. It makes transactions super fast, but it relies on that banking infrastructure, of course.
Yeah, of course. What about platforms like PayPal, Revolut? Where do they fit in?
Those are electronic money platforms. They're services that make transactions easier, often linked to your bank accounts.
An extra layer of convenience.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what money is. But how does it all actually work in the economy? You hear terms like quantitative easing being thrown around.
Right, quantitative easing, or QE. It's a tool central banks use to, well, inject more cash into the economy. They do this by buying assets like government bonds from commercial banks.
And we saw a lot of that during the COVID crisis, right?
Yeah. Between 2020 and 2022, it was used heavily. The idea was to keep markets functioning, prevent a worse downturn.
It aims to stimulate the economy.
Exactly. But, QE increases the overall money supply. That can affect inflation in the long run.
Speaking of which, what about those required reserves banks have to hold?
So required reserves are a percentage of a bank's deposits that they have to keep on hand, either as cash or deposits at the central bank.
Okay.
It's one way central banks try to manage inflation, that general rise in prices we all see.
Inflation. Yeah, it's been a big topic lately.
It has. And, in the short term, a bit of inflation can actually be good. It encourages spending. People buy now before prices go up even more.
So it can stimulate things a bit.
Yeah. But the downside, the big one, is that over time, it erodes your buying power. Your money just doesn't go as far.
Like what happened with the energy crisis, right?
Exactly. That led to inflation in the Eurozone hitting 10.6% in 2023.
So rising prices, not always a good sign. What about the opposite? What's it called?
Deflation. That's when prices actually decrease.
Sounds good. Things getting cheaper.
You'd think so, but it can actually cause problems. People hold off on buying, waiting for prices to drop even more.
So it can slow the economy down.
Yeah, and even stall investment, like what happened in Japan in the 90s.
I also heard that banks actually create money when they give out loans. Is that true?
It is. It's fascinating, actually. Commercial banks don't just lend out the money people deposit. They create new money when they issue loans.
New money. Out of thin air.
Pretty much. When they approve a loan, they credit the borrower's account with a new deposit.
Wow. But of course, there are rules, right?
Oh, absolutely. Things like solvency ratios, like the Basel III standards, international rules to make sure banks have enough capital to cover potential losses.
So they don't get too unstable.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the macro view. Let's bring it back down to earth. How do we use money in our daily lives?
Well, on a practical level, everyday transactions. Instant payment systems are growing, like SEPA Instant in Europe. Transfers happen almost instantly.
Super convenient.
And contactless payments, especially for smaller amounts, under 50 euros, say, are becoming the norm. By 2025, they're projected to be 75% of in-store payments.
Contactless is definitely easy.
Yeah.
What about saving for the future?
For saving, you've got regulated savings accounts, like the Livret A in France. In 2025, it was offering a 3% interest rate, safe, easy access to your funds.
And then there's crypto finance, DeFi, NFTs.
Right. DeFi, or decentralized finance, it's all about providing traditional financial services, but without the traditional middlemen, like banks.
So things like lending platforms, crypto exchanges.
Exactly. Like Aave for lending and Uniswap for exchanges. And then there's NFTs, non-fungible tokens,
Yeah.
unique digital assets recorded on a blockchain.
NFTs have been pretty volatile, haven't they?
They have, but there's a lot of interest. In 2024, they saw $25 billion in trading volume.
It's a whole new world of digital ownership.
It is.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. That YouTube video on the psychology of money had some really interesting points. How our minds interact with wealth.
Yeah, the main idea there was that life rewards value, not just effort.
Makes sense.
Like they gave the example of a software developer versus a baker. The developer often earns significantly more, not because they work more hours necessarily, but because the value their skills provide to businesses, it's perceived as much higher.
So the market rewards perceived value.
Exactly. And it doesn't really care about our ethics or intentions.
Right.
The market rewards those who solve problems effectively. Doesn't matter if a product or service is good or bad morally, it just responds to whether people are willing to pay for it.
So if you want money, solve problems. That was the takeaway.
Pretty much. And not just any problems, the video emphasized tackling complex problems.
Right. The more complex, the more valuable the solution.
Exactly. If it's easy for anyone to solve, it becomes a commodity. Hard to get a good price for it. The real advantage is solving problems others struggle with.
And they talked about the equation of value. What was that again?
Perceived value equals real value multiplied by value filtered through personal values.
So it's not enough to just be good at solving problems.
No, you also have to show how your solution aligns with what people care about. their values. That increases the perceived value.
Trust was another big theme.
Huge. Trust is the foundation for lasting financial success. Dishonest gains, even if they bring short-term benefits, they come at a cost.
Psychologically, to your reputation.
Exactly. You can end up losing wealth, credibility, everything. Building trust, maintaining it, that's crucial.
They also talked about balancing altruism with,
Healthy narcissism, they called it.
yeah, that. It's about finding that balance.
Right. Being too altruistic, you might not reinvest in your own growth, which limits your ability to help others in the long run.
And being too focused on yourself, you might ignore the needs of your clients, your customers.
Right. The key is equitable exchange, mutually beneficial relationships.
The anecdote about the heart surgeon really highlighted that.
Yeah, the one with the slightly higher success rate, even a small difference, and they could charge way more. People will pay a premium for a better chance of success, especially when it's something serious, life or death.
Underscores how much we value expertise.
Absolutely.
And the video also said that everyone has unique value to offer.
It did. Your DNA, your experiences, your interests, they all make you unique. You have something that someone out there might need. The key is taking action, making that value known.
Okay, and lastly, those paradox models. Remind me what those were again.
Okay, paradox model 1. Don't chase money directly. Focus on solving problems. Find that sweet spot where there's a need, where good solutions are lacking, and where your talents fit in.
Okay, makes sense.
Paradox model 2. Don't just wish for wealth. Invest in yourself. Learn, grow, increase your value.
Solid advice. Okay, let's move on to Think and Grow Rich. It's all about mindset and achieving wealth. What were some key takeaways?
The book's huge on the power of belief. It's the foundation of achievement, especially financial success.
Belief is everything.
It is, and it starts with desire, a burning desire for wealth. Not just a vague wish, but a clear, specific goal.
And you have to be willing to give something in return, right? Your time, effort, skills.
Exactly. And have a timeline, a definite point in the future when you want to achieve it.
The book talks a lot about our thoughts influencing outcomes, too.
Absolutely. You have to have faith in your ability to succeed. And it suggests using autosuggestion,
What's that?
repeating positive statements to yourself, programming your subconscious mind with beliefs that support your goals.
So replace negative self-talk with positive self-talk.
Exactly. Negative self-talk can become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Definitely. What about knowledge? What role does it play in building wealth?
The book differentiates between general knowledge and specialized knowledge, the kind that's directly relevant to your field.
Right.
And it argues that continuous learning, acquiring that specialized knowledge, that's essential for wealth. It also talks about leveraging the knowledge of others, collaboration, networking.
Like forming a mastermind group?
Exactly. Find like-minded people, share knowledge, experience, support each other.
The journey to wealth isn't always easy. What does the book say about overcoming obstacles?
It emphasizes perseverance, tenacity, and it suggests that those qualities come from having a clear goal, a plan of action, and resisting negativity.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. And finally, conquer your fears.
Fears can hold you back.
Absolutely. The book specifically mentions fear of poverty and fear of illness as major ones. Identify your fears and eliminate them.
Okay, let's move on to The Richest Man in Babylon. Full of timeless advice on wealth.
It really is, and it's amazing how relevant it still is today. It lays out 7 remedies for a lean purse. The first one, maybe the most important, a part of all you earn is yours to keep.
So save at least 1/10 of everything you earn.
Exactly. Simple, but powerful.
What's the second remedy?
Control thy expenditures.
Yeah.
Budget carefully. Make sure you have enough left to save that 10th.
Prioritize saving, then manage the rest. Okay, what's the third piece of Babylonian wisdom?
Make thy gold multiply. Invest your savings wisely so they grow over time.
Don't just let it sit there.
Right. And the book cautions against taking advice from people who don't know what they're doing. It tells the story of the brickmaker and the jeweler. They lost their money on bad advice.
Ouch.
Instead, learn from experienced investors, like the armorer who lent out his money at interest.
Smart.
It also says not to eat the children of your savings, meaning don't spend the interest you earn, reinvest it to grow your wealth even faster.
So invest wisely, then reinvest the returns. What's the fourth remedy?
Guard thy treasures from loss. Research your investments, make sure they're sound, and get advice from wise people before you commit your money.
Protect your principal.
Exactly. And the fifth remedy, make of thy dwelling a profitable investment.
Owning your home.
Right. Reduces expenses, provides security, could go up in value.
That's advice that still holds true. What's the sixth one?
Ensure a future income. Plan for retirement. Make sure your family is taken care of.
The concept of life insurance wasn't around then, but the principle is the same.
Exactly. Plan for the future. And finally, the seventh remedy. Increase thy ability to earn.
Never stop learning. Keep improving your skills.
Right. Don't be complacent. Always strive to be the best in your field.
The book also tells the story of Arcad, who went from rags to riches. Right?
It does. Arcad, a poor scribe, learns the secret to wealth. Save a portion of your earnings consistently.
And it emphasizes that wealth benefits more than just the individual.
Yeah, wealth grows where energy and effort are put in. When a wealthy person invests, it creates opportunities for others too. Builders, merchants, everyone benefits.
It's about shifting from just earning a salary to making your savings work for you.
Exactly. Make that transition, put your money to work, generate more income through smart investments.
And it suggests that taking action can lead to more opportunities.
It does. Those who are ready to seize opportunities, they seem to attract good luck.
Okay, lastly, the 5 laws of gold. Walk us through those.
The first. Gold comes gladly and in increasing quantity to any man who will put by not less than 1/10 of his earnings to create a future for himself and his family. Second, gold labors diligently and contentedly for the wise owner who finds for it profitable employment, multiplying even as the flocks of the field. Save money, invested well, grows significantly.
Got it. What's the third?
Gold clings to the cautious owner who invests it in sound plans upon the advice of wise men. The fourth, gold slips away from the man who invests it in businesses or purposes with which he is not familiar or which are not recommended by those skilled in its keeping. Do your research. Get expert advice.
Don't invest blindly.
Exactly. And finally, the fifth law. Gold flees the man who would force it to impossible earnings, or who follows the alluring advice of tricksters and schemers, or who trusts his own inexperience and romantic desires in investment.
So be wary of get-rich-quick schemes.
Exactly. The book tells the story of Namazir, Arcad's son, who learned this the hard way. He squandered his inheritance, but eventually learned the laws and became even wealthier.
Proving that wisdom is more valuable than gold itself.
Absolutely.
This ancient wisdom is surprisingly relevant even today. Let's shift to some practical modern-day advice.
Okay, so for managing your personal finances, there's the 50-30-20 rule.
I've heard of that.
50% of your after-tax income goes to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment.
A good framework.
It is. And avoid excessive debt. Aim for a debt-to-income ratio below 35%. And build an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses, just in case.
A safety net?
Exactly. And there are apps now that can help with budgeting.
Oh yeah, like YNAB and banking.
Right. They can track your income, expenses, help you stick to your budget. Super useful.
What about the basics of investing?
Start early, take advantage of compound interest, diversify, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and understand the risks of each investment.
Can you give us some examples of investments and their risk levels?
Sure. Savings accounts, like the Liver A, pretty low risk. It offered around 3% return in 2025. Some life insurance policies also have low-risk savings components.
Go on.
Then you have the stock market, potentially higher returns, but more volatile. Real estate, it can appreciate in value, provide rental income, but it's not as easy to sell quickly as stocks.
Less liquid.
Right. And then there's cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin. High risk, high potential reward. Bitcoin saw big gains in 2024, but it can also drop sharply.
Crypto is definitely a roller coaster. What about strategies for managing debt?
One approach is the debt avalanche method. Pay off the highest interest rate debts first.
Focus on the most expensive debt.
Exactly. You can also try to negotiate better terms with lenders or refinance existing loans, like a mortgage.
Right, if rates have gone down, refinancing could save you money.
Exactly. Like in 2025, Eurozone mortgage rates were around 4.5%. So for some, refinancing made sense.
And lastly, any tips on taxes?
Look for tax-advantaged investment accounts, deductions, anything available in your region.
Like the PEA in France for stock market investments.
Exactly, and certain life insurance policies offer tax benefits if you hold them for over 8 years. Also, make sure you're claiming all eligible deductions, professional expenses, things like that. Consulting a tax professional can be helpful too.
We've covered so much today. Let's talk about the future. What trends are you seeing?
A big one is the move towards a cashless society.
Digital payments everywhere.
Yeah, in some countries like Sweden, cash is barely used anymore. Contactless payments are growing rapidly too.
It's convenient, but there are concerns about privacy.
Absolutely. And reliance on digital systems. But even with all that, cash probably won't disappear completely.
How is this digitalization affecting the global economy?
It's changing things. Blockchain technology could reduce the need for traditional banks in some transactions. E-commerce is booming, online payments are everywhere.
Reshaping how we buy and sell.
It is. And it raises the question, who will control digital currencies in the future? Banks, tech companies, or decentralized entities? Big question.
What about cryptocurrencies? Will they go mainstream?
They offer some benefits, like being outside government control, faster cross-border transactions, but they're volatile and regulations are still unclear in many places.
So maybe a complement to traditional currencies, not a replacement.
Most likely, yeah.
What about CBDCs?
Central bank digital currencies, basically digital versions of a country's currency issued by the central bank.
Yeah.
Some countries are exploring them, like China with its digital yuan and the Eurozone with the digital euro. They want to modernize payment systems, control the digitalization of money, maybe limit the influence of private cryptocurrencies.
But there are concerns about surveillance.
Definitely. A big debate.
And lastly, how will AI affect the world of finance?
AI is already making waves, especially in algorithmic trading. AI systems buy and sell assets automatically.
Wow.
And its role in investment analysis, risk management, personalized financial advice, it's all going to grow. We could see more tailored, automated financial services. Some analysts, like those at VanEck, are even predicting big revenue from AI-powered crypto projects in the future.
Wow. That's amazing. So as we wrap up our deep dive, what are the key takeaways for our listener?
Money, it's complex, it's evolving, its role in the modern economy is intricate, but you can understand it. Our psychology plays a huge role in how we handle money. And there are timeless principles, modern strategies you can use to manage your finances and build wealth.
It's all about becoming fluent in the language of money.
Exactly. And here's something to think about. Of everything we've talked about today, from the history of money to the psychology and practical strategies, what resonates most with your financial situation?
Good question.
And what's one small step you can take right now to apply this knowledge? Maybe try a budgeting app, revisit your savings plan, or simply reflect on your mindset around money.
Right.
And if something really piqued your interest, dive deeper. The history of the gold standard, DeFi, the wisdom of ancient Babylon, there's so much to explore.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of money.